Ladies and gentlemen, this next segment of the podcast is brought to you by the Heritage Foundation. For over 50 years, the Great Heritage Foundation has been America's outpost in Washington, fighting against the D.C. federal bureaucracy and working to secure a future that allows Americans to live the good life. For too long, common sense principles have been ignored by many of the very leaders claiming to fight for America. But the Heritage Foundation is proud to hold our leaders accountable and stand up for America's founding principles. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Another day to celebrate. I mean, think about this, folks. Think about what's going on here. You see the jobs numbers? More jobs created than expected. I mean, we hear this all the time under Trump, under Reagan, same thing. I mean, you have effectively no unemployment. I mean, there's some, but it's so low statistically, that's how they treat it. You have effectively no inflation. The price of gasoline this holiday weekend is way down. The price of food, in most instances, is down. Obviously, we always want to do better. Housing prices around the country are down, depending on whether you're a buyer or seller. That's either good or bad. The point is the economy's chugging along. And now with this bill that was passed, it is a massive tax cut across the board with special focus on people who work with their hands, who serve other people, and who have modest incomes. The Democrats keep talking about tax cuts for billionaires because what else are they going to say? What else are they going to say? So which tax cut is it for billionaires? Can somebody, at some point, one of these reporters ask the Democrats, what tax cut is for billionaires? What are you talking about? Now, there could be a tax cut that encompasses everybody that affects billionaires, but what is the tax cut for billionaires? Which one is it? No, you don't know, and I don't know, because there isn't one. So they keep saying tax cuts for billionaires. Well, which one is it? There aren't any. They're liars. But you know they're liars. They in their media, that's what they do. They lie. And I have a few goons, thugs, and knuckleheads in the Republican Party who do the same thing. Just like the Israeli attack on Iran, or our attack on the nuclear sites, World War III. Carlson was talking about that. Pardon me. What's that slob's name again? I don't know. O'Bannon was talking about it. Marjorie Taylor Greene still talking about it. They've become irrelevant. Irrelevant. The Democrats are either becoming irrelevant or, depending on which one you listen to, more extremist. They don't represent the American people. They hate you. They hate you. They lie to you incessantly. I mean, President Trump is pushing through his agenda with the tiniest of margins in the House and the Senate. And you have to give a lot of credit to Mike Johnson. He's a hell of a speaker. Kevin McCarthy was too, by the way. But this Mike Johnson, he's like the Houdini of legislation. He's able to get these things done. It's unbelievable. It really is. Of course, he has the help of President Trump. But he's still the quarterback in the House of Representatives trying to serve the American people and the president and get this thing done. And Thune over in the Senate did a very good job, too. So sometimes we should take a victory lap. It's okay. Is there a lot more to do? Well, of course there is. There's a lot more to do. The lower courts were pushed back by the Supreme Court the other week. That's a good thing. A good thing. The role of parents in the raising of their children was supported by the Supreme Court. That is a good thing. This bill includes school choice. This is a good thing. It's a good thing. Do we need to slash spending? You better believe we do. But what did I write in the Liberty Amendments? Washington can't do it. It just can't do it. And so we need our states to step up, our state legislatures, don't we? And to begin the process of capping and limiting the percentage of the GDP that the federal government can spend. But you can't do that in a single budget bill all of a sudden with the tiniest of majorities. This is the reality. And many of the people who are yammering away, they don't even support Convention of States. So you can, of course, support Convention of States and this bill at the same time, understanding reality. I said Washington can't do what needs to be done. That said, the states can. It's fantastic what's taking place here. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited about what the court has done. It's going to disappoint us. Don't worry. That time will come. But right now, these decisions have been excellent. What's happened in the Middle East is superb, absolutely superb. Not a single American military personnel wounded, let alone killed in any of these actions. And Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon or intercontinental ballistic missiles. These people were all wrong. They're a disgrace. The border is secure. This bill is going to triple, basically, the number of ICE individuals and the ability to have detention centers and so forth to really push people out of this country who shouldn't be here in the first place. Terrible, horrible criminals in many cases. You don't get enough credit. You, the American people. I haven't heard anybody thank you. I'm thanking you. Because but for you, Donald Trump wouldn't be president of the United States. But for you, we wouldn't have a majority in the Senate and the House. You did this. You wanted it. You did it. You voted. And you got it. And you got it. All of you, and there were a lot of you, I'm told, who called Capitol Hill last evening and through the night and into the early morning, urging your representatives to vote for this bill, I'm told you had an impact. So I want to thank you. I'm not saying it's the impact or what percent. I'm just telling you, you had a very positive role. And I want to thank each and every one of you in this audience who did it. I have the best audience. You're the best, folks. You're, by far. You're just terrific. Now, tomorrow, as you know, is Independence Day, July 4th. 2025. 249 years ago, people keep saying 249 years ago, the Declaration of Independence was signed after some pretty brilliant and emotional debating that took place in Philadelphia in what was the State Assembly building, but we call Independence Hall now. The Second Continental Congress. The Second Continental Congress. And there are a lot of states that were very skeptical about jumping into this war, which had already started. Lexington and Concord had already been fought. Bunker Hill had already been fought. So you had several states, particularly in the South, that were selling a lot of cotton to Britain, saying, why are we getting into this fight? They're not bothering us. But they did. So when we come back, I want to tell you a little bit about what took place 249 years and a few months ago at Lexington and Concord. The shot heard round the world. You've heard that phrase. Just to give you a very short little history lesson. Many of you may already know this. But you're going to be celebrating tomorrow and throughout the week in our independence. And so I want to discuss this, albeit briefly. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
President Trump is in Washington with a mandate from the American people to solve the border crisis, reverse the effects of Bidenflation, and restore American greatness. But since January 20, judges across our country have consistently been blocking President Trump's attempts to fulfill his mandate. The Heritage Foundation has been analyzing the situation, and they've been able to identify the legal issues with these judges' actions, as well as the solutions that can end this potential crisis. Now, to see the results of the Heritage's analysis for yourself, go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. There you'll gain exclusive access to the Heritage Foundation's guide to solving the problem of limiting President Trump's executive actions. Stopping these judges might be the only way to protect Americans and take back our nation. So go to heritage.org/Levin, that's heritage.org/Levin, and get your free copy today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. We're going to have a very fun show this evening. Very patriotic. Battlefields. Battlefields.org is a very great site. April 19, 1775. This is your history. Facing an impending rebellion, British General Thomas Gage decided to seize weapons and gunpowder being stored in Concord, Massachusetts, 20 miles northwest of Boston, to prevent violence. Patriot spies soon got wind of Gage's plan. Paul Revere and other riders spread the word Dawes of the 800 British regulars who were dispatched to Concord. Departing Boston late in the evening of April 18, the King's troop marched into the small town of Lexington around 5 a.m. to find facing them a militia company of more than 70 men, led by Captain John Parker. When the vanguard of the British force rushed forward upon the town green, Captain Parker immediately ordered his company to disperse. At some point, a shot rang out. Historians still debate who fired it. The nervous British soldiers fired a volley, killing 7 and mortally wounding one of the retreating militiamen. The British column moved on towards Concord, leaving the dead, wounded, and dying in their wake. Parker and his men would have revenge later that afternoon. Arriving in Concord around 8 a.m., British commanders Francis Smith and John Pitcairn ordered several companies, about 220 troops in all, to secure the North Bridge across the Concord River, and then continue on another mile to Barrett Farm, where suspected cache of arms and powder were presumably located. But by the time the British arrived at the North Bridge, a growing assembly of close to 400 militia from Concord and the surrounding towns had gathered on the high ground overlooking the North Bridge. From their vantage point on the hill, they could see smoke rising from Concord, the result of British burning some supplies that they had uncovered. Thinking the town was put to the torch, Lieutenant Joseph Hosmer of Concord shouted to his fellow officers, "Will you let them burn the town down?" The decision was then made to take action. Colonel James Barrett ordered his companies to march upon the bridge, but not to fire upon the British soldiers unless first fired upon. The Acton Company, commanded by 30-year-old Captain Isaac Davis, was placed at the head of the column. When asked if they were prepared to confront the British troops, Davis said, "I haven't a man afraid to go." Now, first of all, isn't it amazing? These men of history that literally began the war for independence in 1775, nobody ever talks about them because nobody has ever heard of them because it's not taught. Colonel James Barrett, Lieutenant Joseph Hosmer. Just as some example, Captain Isaac Davis, 30 years old. They all put their lives on the line. Incredible. Incredible how much history we don't know and isn't taught. So these Minutemen, and they were called Minutemen because in a minute's notice they were able to arm themselves and come to the core of the battle. The Minutemen formed up and marched down the hill. As they did so, the British soldiers, intimidated by the colonial numbers and orderly advance, retreated to the opposite shore and prepared to defend themselves. When Davis's company came within range, British soldiers opened fire, killing Isaac Davis and also Abner Hosmer, another Acton Minuteman. Major Buttrick of Concord shouted, "For God's sakes, fire!" And the Minutemen replied with their own volley, killing 3 British soldiers and wounding 9 others. This volley is considered the shot heard round the world at Concord. The rest of the British troops retreated back to town. Smith and Pitcairn, the Brits, soon ordered a return to Boston, which developed into a rout as thousands of Minutemen patriots descended on the area, as the British were attacked from all sides by swarms of angry Minutemen, along with what is known as the Battle Road. When they reached Lexington, John Parker and his men had their revenge, firing on the British regulars from behind cover. For the next 12 miles, the British were continually ambushed by Minutemen shooting from behind trees, rock walls, and buildings. The emotions of this fight carried well beyond April 19, inspiring American warriors to rise up and fight again, even in the face of staggering odds against them. Having heard of the morning fighting at Lexington, British General Gage ordered Lord Percy to march from Boston with a relief column. The column reached Smith and Pitcairn's men on the eastern outskirts of Lexington, but Minutemen continued to pour in as word spread quickly throughout the area. Among these minute and militia companies were many African Americans, both free and slave, who took up arms and fought alongside with their white neighbors. The British conducted a running fight until they could get cover. The British conducted a running fight until they could get under the cover of British guns and ships anchored in the waterways surrounding Boston. By 8 p.m., it was clear that the day had been a disaster for the British. They lost 73 killed and many more wounded compared to the Patriots' loss of 49. Concord poet Ralph Waldo Emerson, dubbed from the embattled farmers, they were not American citizens yet. That would have to wait until 1776 and the Declaration of Independence, our Declaration of Independence from Britain. Then Americans became American citizens. On April 19, 1775, they were simply loyal British subjects who believed that they were standing up to defend and fight for their rights. And in doing so, they changed the world forever. Think about that. Lexington and Concord. I'll be right back. Are you concerned about the rising number of judges who've been limiting President Trump's executive orders? Now, if you're not concerned yet, you should be. When these judges use injunctions to block President Trump's attempts to fulfill his mandate from the American people, it is we, the people, who lose out. Thankfully, the Heritage Foundation has the policy solutions to stop these threats to our judicial system. So go to heritage.org and get your free copy of the How to Stop Activist Judges ebook. This resource explains exactly what these judges are doing, why it matters, and how under the Constitution they can be stopped. President Trump's agenda is in danger, but even more importantly, the safety of Americans and the future of our nation could be at stake. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Get your free ebook today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
The new American Revolution starts here. The Mark Levin Show. Call in at 877-381-3811.
I just checked in with our friends at the Reagan Library. There's a couple hundred tickets left. That's it. That's it. That's it. I won't be here tomorrow, Saturday or Sunday, of course. I'll be back Monday. Tomorrow being July 4th, we'll have a fantastic best of for you. So I suspect when I come back, it'll all be gone. So that's why I'm, again, just mentioning the Reagan Library, August 17th, 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to have a grand old time. The book signing, the fairly intimate back and forth discussions about what's taking place, including my book on power, as well as dinner. We love it. And I know you'll love it too. And they have Dead Sea Scrolls there. It's amazing. It's just propitious. It's a propitious moment. And, of course, the Reagans, Ronald Reagan being one of the greatest presidents ever, his wonderful wife, they're buried there. It's a beautiful sight. We have a bench there with my parents' name on it as well. But in any event, those of you who want to join us, that's really where you might want to join us. We'll also be announcing next week the other two book sites as well. And then that'll be it in terms of book signings. There are no pre-signed books. This is it. If you want a signed book, you have to attend one of these events. If you want to talk and meet, this is really the place to do it. And we always appreciate it. We always have a wonderful time, don't we, those who've come to these things? But the Reagan Library is a very, very special place. So if you're interested, you go to reaganfoundation.org/Levin, reaganfoundation.org/LEVIN. They said there's a couple hundred tickets left. That's it. Now, we have a vast audience, so that's not going to last very long. Now, that said, I talked about Lexington and Concord. There are other battles, of course, throughout the Revolutionary War. Really big battles, important battles, leading up to July 4, 1776, and the Declaration of Independence. So, in other words, the war had begun. And the declaration was a declaration by the people's representatives to the world of what was taking place and why it was taking place. That's where we get our declaration of war from. This was a declaration of war, but the war had already begun. And just fascinating things. You know, I've talked about Dr. Joseph Warren and his role. He was in his mid-30s. He was one of the great doctors, one of the leading doctors in Boston, the Boston area. And he had a tremendous reputation. But he was also one of the leading revolutionaries. And Dr. Warren was much better known than George Washington at the time because nobody knew who George Washington was. He was in Virginia. Again, we're talking about 1775. And Warren was one of the leaders, along with Sam Adams and Paul Revere and some of the others on this in this secret group that they had organized to basically push out the British. He was behind a number of the acts that led up to these early battles around Boston and then later New York. And Joseph Warren was a remarkable man. Again, not only an exceptional doctor, but incredibly brave. And at the Battle of Bunker Hill, as he was one of those actually leading the militia and those who were armed against the British, the Battle of Bunker Hill, the Americans took the high ground, and Breed's Hill is another aspect of it that people talk about. But let's stick with Bunker Hill, Battle of Bunker Hill. I had a document in which Warren, as well as the colonel and one other who were leading the American forces, such as they were begging the New York legislature for gunpowder. The New York legislature didn't have enough gunpowder for New York. Nonetheless, they knew that the British forces were coming. Those big British ships were docked, and they could see those ships from where they were based. They dug in, and the British ran up the hill. They were pushed back by the Americans. Weren't even called Americans back then. They were pushed back by the militia and so forth. And they suffered fairly significant casualties. They made another run up the hill. They made some penetration, but were pushed back. They again suffered casualties. And then the colonists ran out of gunpowder, Mr. Producer. So the British charged again. Many of the colonists, they fought, some of them hand-to-hand with swords and knives. Some of them still had pistols and so forth, but they eventually retreated. Joseph Warren refused to retreat. And he led what small numbers of men who stayed to continue to fight, and they were killed. In the case of Warren, they were looking for Warren. He had a bounty on his head. And there he was with a sword. And one of the British commanders took his pistol and shot him between the eyes. Then they urinated on him. Then they butchered his body. Later on, Paul Revere was a blacksmith, among other things, a great blacksmith. I actually have a few of his pieces that he made in his day. Well, he had also made some teeth for Joseph Warren, and that's how they identified his body, such as it was. These were great men whose names are not known. It just frustrates the hell out of me. It frustrates the hell out of me. The amount of money we pour into public education and education generally, and how much is unknown, how little is known about who we are and our history, and these people early on who gave us this great country, as you and I defend this country right now against the Marxists and the Islamists and all the rest of them. The more you really learn red-blooded American history, the more you love this country, which I guess is why it's not taught, certainly not well. And because we won't be here on July 4th, I thought we'd play a little bit of music, not a lot, just one in particular, the Battle Hymn of the Republic, in honor of those in 1775 and 1776 and the long Revolutionary War that went on for almost 8 years. I guess the forever war isolationists, they would have opposed that. They would have trashed George Washington as a warmonger and Lafayette as a neocon. But here we go. This is a beautiful rendition. Go.
His truth, his marching Christ was born across the sea, with our glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. As he died to make man holy, let us die to make man free, while God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching
Mark Levin.
President Trump is in Washington with a mandate from the American people to solve the border crisis, reverse the effects of Bidenflation, and restore American greatness. But since January 20, judges across our country have consistently been blocking President Trump's attempts to fulfill his mandate. The Heritage Foundation has been analyzing the situation, and they've been able to identify the legal issues with these judges' actions, as well as the solutions that can end this potential crisis. Now, to see the results of the Heritage's analysis for yourself, go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. There you'll gain exclusive access to the Heritage Foundation's guide to solving the problem of limiting President Trump's executive actions. Stopping these judges might be the only way to protect Americans and take back our nation. So go to heritage.org/Levin, that's heritage.org/Levin, and get your free copy today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. My wife just sent me this. Remember Ann Landers? Juanita Broderick. The great Juanita Broderick posted this. Dear Ann, I'm an English teacher, and my students are reading George Orwell's 1984. I encourage you to do that. I'm having a difficult time explaining communism, socialism, and fascism without giving a time-consuming history lesson. I recall you printed a explanation, a humorous explanation, those concepts using cows. Will you please print it again? I'm sure it will kickstart a lively class discussion, a teacher in Mississippi. And so Landers prints it again. Socialism. You have 2 cows, give 1 cow to your neighbor. Communism. You have 2 cows, give both cows to the government. They may give you some milk. Fascism. You have 2 cows, you can give all the milk to the government, and the government sells it. Marxism. You have 2 cows, the government shoots you and takes both cows. Anarchism. You have 2 cows, keep both cows, shoot the government agent, and steal another cow. Capitalism. You have 2 cows. Sell one and buy a bull. So you can have more cows, you see. Brilliant, isn't it, Mr. Producer? Really good. Really good out there. I want to strongly encourage you, this is the weekend to do it. Go to Amazon.com. You can go to Barnes & Noble, too. They've been great. But get your brand new pre-ordered copy of On Power. It's 3 weeks away. We're going to have a big breakout starting on Hannity's TV show, a full Sunday show, Fox and Friends on the weekend, Fox and Friends during the week, other programs, as well as our wonderful radio stations and radio hosts out there. So I want to encourage you to grab your copy now. It's discounted. It's less than $24, I believe. On Power, Amazon.com. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Okay, there's about 120 seats left at the Reagan Library. For those of you who want to jump in, you better jump. I can't wait to meet you. I can't wait till that event. ReaganFoundation.org/Levin, ReaganFoundation.org/LEVIN. You know, you've heard me talk about this book on power. You've heard me go through different aspects of it. I've explained that I've categorized power in different ways: negative power, positive power, soft negative power, things of that sort, without overwhelming on the air. It's just easier to read it for yourselves. But I do want to touch on this issue of positive power, because I've spent a lot of time on negative power. What exactly is positive power? Now, you may have an inkling, but let's just take a little bit of time getting into this, because what typically happens is I talk about this pre-order period, and then the book comes out, and we talk about it post-release for a period of time. And then the discussions that you and I have on the air, at the Reagan Library, the different signings, but especially on the air, they seep into the consciousness of those who talk about these things. Oppressor, oppressed. You never heard that discussed. Maybe you heard it in a classroom or something, but you never heard it discussed on cable TV or talk radio till we did that in American Marxism. You now hear this guy running for mayor in New York, people calling him a Marxist or a communist. That would never have happened prior to American Marxism. They kept calling them progressives or radicals or leftists or socialists. And you may recall here and on TV, I kept correcting them. Call them what they are. Call them what they are. You've heard the word status. The word status was really kind of an Aristotelian word, but I reintroduced it to modern-day America through liberty and tyranny. So status, oppressor, oppressed, Marxist. You're going to learn other phrases that are in this book that will eventually take hold, like positive power and negative power. Authoritarian democracy. Wow. Authoritarian democracy. That is precisely what's being promoted in New York right now by this candidate. But let's look at positive power, chapter 3, just for a second. Because I know this is, I love this format more than any other. I really do. And this is why. And so I explain positive power starts from an altogether different premise than negative power. God is the sovereign. And through God, his children, that is, the individual and the people, are sovereign. Thus, power properly understood and exercised in the context of government is about the well-being of the people, not the rulers. Again, look how different this is than negative power, Marxism, Islamism, fascism, and so forth. The people are the sovereign, not the governing authority, and importantly, the belief in God-given eternal truths, natural law, unalienable rights, all phrases in your Declaration of Independence. That's the basis of a moral and virtuous society that transcends any ruling class. Now, this first paragraph in Chapter 3 really is the foundational paragraph for our whole American system, society, culture. One's approach to life and role in society and more involves practices, decisions, values, and beliefs that together form one's life philosophy, which results from learned, cognitive, reactionary, experiential, or even instinctive thought processes, and significantly, faith. Faith is a vital, bear with me, My eyesight's not perfect. Faith is a vital, if not the imperative influence in the life of the individual, a nation, and even in countries that are said to be secular and that formally or institutionally disclaim and seek to invalidate faith, including by indoctrination and force. And of course, faith as preached and practiced by certain religions or religious leaders, now and in the past, has been used by despots and despotic regimes as other autocrats use power to brutalize, destroy, and kill. You may ask, how can faith be both pivotal to positive power, yet a potential tool for negative power? And so I point out, thus further inquiry is crucial. Let us begin with the American Declaration of Independence. Now you can see why I decided to focus on this today, because tomorrow is the birthday of the Declaration of Independence. It appeals to the laws of nature and of nature's God, and states, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The founders were men of science, reason, and experience, but they were also men of faith who worshiped God. Even among the deists, namely Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, they knew and professed the importance of faith in society and the establishment of the American Republic. Reason cannot by itself, as I cite in Liberty and Tyranny, explain why there's reason. Science cannot by itself explain why there is science. Man's discovery and application of science are products of reason. Reason and science can explain the existence of matter. They cannot explain why there is matter. They can explain the existence of the universe, but they cannot explain why there is a universe. They can explain the existence of nature and the laws of physics, but they cannot explain why there is nature and the laws of physics. They can explain the existence of life, but they cannot explain why there is life. They can explain the existence of consciousness, but they cannot explain why there is consciousness. Back to my book on power. The founders did not believe they owed their origin to men and through men, but to a transcendent providence. That is, to a higher source than man, God. Faith was fundamental to America's founding. Indeed, Christianity was and is our nation's dominant religion. Moreover, without Judaism, there would be no Christianity. So together, Judeo-Christian values and beliefs redounded throughout our society from the earliest days of the colonists and still do today. One layperson put it this way: Judaism and Christianity have significantly influenced Western civilization. The teachings have shaped ethical frameworks, legal systems, and cultural norms. The values derived by both faiths are evident in literature, art, philosophy throughout history. Concepts like human rights and social justice and the dignity of life are rooted in those teachings. Both religions advocate for compassion and moral integrity, impacting societal values. Their contributions extend beyond religious spheres, informing the development of Western thought and culture. As America became a nation of United States, it was never intended to be, nor would it ever become, a fundamentalist religious state or theocracy, as one sees through the Muslim world and elsewhere. It was never to be a repressive religious state that smothers alternative religious beliefs, or a state that punished or silenced non-believers, atheists, agnostics. On the contrary, early on, religious tests and requirements that existed in some of the colonies would quickly disappear. Among other reasons, Judaism and Christianity do not seek to compel, let alone demand, doctrinal purity. The United States is among the most religiously tolerant nations on earth. In fact, it matters not at all what one does or does not believe to enjoy the freedoms and securities that American society offers, and which are explicitly protected by our Constitution. The first sentence of the First Amendment declares Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The reason is the distinction recognized in American society between the relationship of faith and the individual, faith and the community, faith in the actual operation of government. In short, faith, properly understood, creates a spiritual, moral, and psychological foundation, which affects how the individual lives his life. In America, it is typically a moderating force in one's life, checking the excesses of the darker side of humanity, which in turn contributes to the civility of society. Even those who reject faith are not utterly devoid of its implications. For example, one has regular interactions with others whose faith affects or sways the non-believer's behavior, even without formally recognizing or accepting the faith itself. Moreover, society is imbued with the influence of faith. It is impossible to escape it. Therefore, even for those who do not consciously or formally embrace of faith, the teaching and practicing of faith create the moral and value-based belief system of so many others in society. This is an organic process, not theocratic or otherwise coercive. You see what I'm saying there, Mr. Producer? In other words, it rubs off on a person. And you don't have to believe in anything. But our society was founded on beliefs. It's possible, for example, to have a biblical, a liturgical worldview, or a more formal or orthodox faith belief, that is, perspective, and serve in the government without the desire, purpose, or conviction to impose that faith on others by governmental coercion. That is negative power. This is well understood in America, and there's a reason for it. For example, as previously noted, Christianity is the majority faith in America, but it is not the country's official or formal religion. In fact, Christianity does not preach political control over societies or administrative control over governments, unlike Islam, which does. Thus, in America, the individual's pursuit of knowledge and science not only coexists with faith, but springs from the influences of faith and are part of man's internal makeup. Therefore, positive power originates not from mankind's hand or mind, although certainly its practical and earthly application does, but its origin is transcendent and inherent. When we speak of universal or eternal truths like the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, the 10 commandments, thou shalt not kill, etc. Good and evil. These are fundamentally moral precepts understood and ingrained in the human conscience and openly expressed in free and democratic societies. They are known to be true throughout the world, including among those who are oppressed by tyrannical governments and regimes, by the less educated or uneducated, by people of all faiths or no faith. This is not to say all individuals, cultures, or regimes adhere to these eternal truths. Some are evil, power-hungry, irrational. Man's existence is strewn with horrific examples of his cruelty, from ancient history to modern times. And of course, man's imperfection is both well known and well established. But knowing what is right from wrong is distinct from doing what is right rather than wrong. And I go on. Is this in the least interesting, Mr. Producer? He wants me to keep going, but I can't. So I delve into this even much more deeply. Positive power. This is the American psyche. This is the American experiment. This is America. This is who we are. And I delve into it in ways that I don't believe anybody ever has. And same with negative power. This is who they are. Not you and me. They, over there. This is who they are. And so there's a whole construct that I'm trying to unravel and explain. And I take this whole term, power, which is a force. Power is a force. And I break it down in multiple ways. Because I got to thinking, especially when I was injured and I was stuck in bed for 2.5 months, my mind starts rolling and so forth. And I'm thinking, okay, liberty, tyranny, good, evil, rights, denial of rights. We've talked about that. And it's crucially important that we've talked about that. And we always should. And we talk about power at a surface level in a superficial way. Well, we got that. No. The key is power. That's the key. That's the key to the Declaration of Independence. When you read it, it talks about liberty, unalienable rights, but it's power. That's why they're rising up. That's why they're declaring independence. Power. Power. That's what they were debating. Maybe not using the word power, but power at the Constitutional Convention. When we look at the Islamists, whether they're in the Middle East or in our own country, whether they're running for mayor of New York, it's about power. That's what affects your liberty. That's what affects your rights. Even though your liberty and rights are God-given at the earthly level, decisions are made about how or whether they're exercised. You have these rights as a child of God. That's what the framers and the founders believed, and they're right. That's the whole basis for our free society, a fusion of faith, properly understood, and the Enlightenment. Over there, the Marxists and the Islamists, that's not what it's about. It's about coercion. And in the case of the Islamists, it's about the fundamentalism of their faith and coercion. That's their fusion. And so I try to take the complex, run it through my mind, and bring it out in a way that's understandable. Otherwise, why even write the damn book, right? On power. When I'm dead and gone, I think this will be the book, if there's anything, that will be the legacy for what I do. Luckily, my wife can't hear me right now. She hates when I talk this way. She says, what are you talking about? Stop it. This will be the book on power. I've written many. It's my 11th. Mark, why do you write books? Because I want to. Because I think they're important. Because they provide a different platform for educating people. I'll tell you something else. It's kind of a secret, but not between us. The book industry right now is very flat. It's very flat. I worry about the book industry. I don't want it to be destroyed. I don't want it to go away. Because when it's all said and done, what I said here last Wednesday won't be remembered. But what I wrote last year might be remembered. You get the point, Mr. Producer? People need to see things. Read things. That's how you remember things. So I encourage you to grab this book. I think you're going to really, really learn a lot, get a lot out of it. The value proposition is really great. I mean, $24 or less. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was made in America. And listen to this. That's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag ever, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk today. Know that you're supporting a company that will be providing these high-quality flags made in America to deserving veterans. With plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data, you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill, in many cases, in half. The average Pure Talk family saves over $1,000 a year. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a wireless company that supports our veterans, that is patriotic, based right here in America. Switch to Pure Talk. I only have a little over a minute. I hope you're enjoying this when I go through some of the passages in this book. I do spend a lot of time, not an overabundance, but a lot of time on the Declaration because it is so foundational and so important to understand our society. And I'm a little remiss in what I said earlier. There is one part I want to talk about because the Declaration is what we're celebrating, our Declaration of Independence, our Declaration of Freedom, tomorrow. And there was another piece I meant to address. But I only have 30 seconds, so we will when we come back, and then we'll get on with some other things. But I think today is a special day in the lead up to July 4th, Independence Day. So honestly, I don't want to waste it with little bits of news here and there that are floating around and somebody else decided that was important to put on a website. We'll be right back. Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was made in America. And listen to this. That's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag ever, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk today. Know that you're supporting a company that will be providing these high-quality flags made in America to deserving veterans. With plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data, you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill, in many cases, in half. The average Pure Talk family saves over $1,000 a year. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a wireless company that supports our veterans, that is patriotic, based right here in America. Switch to Pure Talk.
This is the home of America's founding. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
These are the kinds of discussions we have, by the way, at the Reagan Library and other places. And I don't believe you're ever going to read or look at the Declaration the same way again. And that's a good thing. You're going to see more in there than meets the eye. And so I was saying, I'd be remiss, back on Chapter 3 on power, but in this case it's positive power, and I take a look at Marxism. The overlay of Marxism with so-called modern-day progressivism, or what I call and coined American Marxism, and be thinking of this guy in New York as an example, is unmistakable. Woodrow Wilson and his peers essentially plagiarized and customized large swaths of Marxist ideology and turned it into their own. Now, why is Wilson important? We've had this discussion. He was one of the intellectual leaders of the so-called progressive movement about 50 years after Marx died, actually less than that, 35 or so years after Marx died, the end of the 1800s into the 1900s. He was the president of Princeton. He'd been a professor, and he became president of the United States in a three-way race. That's how he slipped in, and that's why I worry about New York. And he was the one that first advanced the administrative state and all these other things, which later on Franklin Roosevelt would seize on and really turn our economic system and constitution inside out. So Wilson's a critical character in all this. And what I'm pointing out is he wasn't particularly unique. He basically plagiarized from Marx and changed a few things around. Again, he insisted that Wilson... Well, let me put it this way. Wilson's break from the Declaration of Independence, he hated the Declaration and the Constitution. And America's founding principles appears everywhere in his writings and speeches. Again, he insisted that concepts like eternal truths, natural law, unalienable rights, all of which are in the Declaration, and a focus on the individual and free will rather than the state, were quaint relics applicable only to the time in which they were asserted. They are neither relevant nor binding on the present or future, which are and will be in constant state of movement, manipulated, and managed by masterminds. Now, understand, these are the Jamie Raskins, the Hakeem Jeffries, the Bernie Sanders, this guy running for mayor. This is where their mind is. This is where their mind is. They feel absolutely no allegiance to the Declaration or the Constitution, whether they wave them around or not. But I'm explaining why. One need not be theoretical about the disastrous human consequences resulting from the abandonment of positive power. What's positive power? I described it earlier. The sovereign God, we the people, his children, we are the sovereigns of government, not the government, and so forth. Nothing focuses the mind better, as I write, than the myriad real-life examples of the last century or so and currently of human genocide, mass incarceration, the obliteration of civil liberties, widespread poverty, etc., rooted in the negative power of Marxist ideology, specifically in autocratic regimes generally. This is why I've been saying to you, the problem when some guy says free buses and free public transportation and homes and food and all that, there's no context ever provided, and they're not going to, because the candidates that run against him, the media that cover it, they don't know how to do it. It's sad. It's sad. You have to surrender your liberty. You have to surrender your God-given unalienable rights to an autocrat. Is it worth a free loaf of bread? Although its Western progeny is of a different degree and manner, it is nonetheless a poison that finds opportunity in the fissures and rifts of any democracy, eating away at its bedrock and framework. This is the nature of the so-called progressive movement. In Marxism, unlike, for example, Islam, there is no fusion of faith with coercion, in that there is no faith or higher order with which to fuse. Instead, Marxism replaces faith with a cult-like man-made order where there's no higher order than man, or more precisely, certain men. Indeed, even reason is whatever man says it is, or more specifically, whatever the ruling class says it is. Hence, both faith and reason are repudiated. There can be no conflict of ideas or interests, no compromise or settling. Conformity and uniformity of belief and behavior are essential to Marxism and Islamists, as well as other forms of autocratic enforcement. Point of fact, like Islamism, coercion is central to Marxism, as is the destruction of Western enlightenment and, necessarily, the advocates, tools, and institutions of positive power, like the Declaration of Independence. The result is the collusion of Marxists and Islamists on American college campuses demanding the eradication of Israel, America, and the West. And the alliances built by communist China with Islamist regimes such as Iran. On the other hand, positive power nurtures that which Marxism, Islamism, and like entities seek to eradicate. That is, the human spirit, virtue, self-consciousness, individual sovereignty and free will, unalienable rights, the competition of ideas, speech and debate, self-reliance, and other attributes of human interaction, and innate character that contribute to a moral, vibrant, and healthy civil society. In America today, like much of the West, most public debate about politics circles around who exercises power, almost to the exclusion of the meaning, purpose, and nature of power, which are central to understanding positive power. Although the who part of power is an essential area of inquiry and discussion, as I explained earlier in the book, it's not enough. The former, without more, is to debate the issue of power on the terms of negative power, that is, the abandonment of the quintessence of positive power and the civil society for a secular view of power unmoored from the principles that informed America's founders. And I go on. It's easier to read than it is for me to read it to you. It's funny how the brain works. I tell you, my mind goes into 1,000 different places. It's funny how the brain works. The visual has a more lasting impact than what you hear. Unless, of course, it's traumatic. But I'm not talking about that. So you can sit there and listen to a lecture, and it goes on and on. And it's kind of, you're getting tired in one ear, one out the other. There's a lot of people. But if you read it, or you picture it, or you imagine it, you remember it. There are experts who talk about memory, how to remember things, Mr. Producer, and the best way to remember things, very complicated things. And most of them say the same thing, which is you've got to create illustrations or images in your mind. Images are remembered. The written word, when you read it, is remembered more than when somebody reads it to you. It's just the way it is. And that's, again, why I love books. That's why I love books. Maybe I'm out of step. Who knows? Could be. But I hope you'll grab your copy of On Power. I've spent a lot of time this evening going through different aspects of it. I haven't even touched the surface, but you get a good flavor of this. And I think you'll find it very intriguing. This isn't, paint by the numbers books. That some publishers, but they pretty much want to put a famous name on it, kick it out, sell it. Then the next year, name, sell it. Next year, ghostwriter, names. I don't play those games. This is not an assembly line. I write when I want to write about what I want to write. And I try and integrate, like this book, into the books that I've written previously. And to some extent, you might see a different emphasis. Because just as I get older and I learn more things, sometimes I adjust to it. That's not to say my principles or our principles are adjustable. That's not my point. My point is whether there's an emphasis on one aspect more than another, whether there's a bright light that goes on when you start thinking about the other. And that's what happened here with On Power. Just like when I wrote the book, The Liberty Amendments, I was absolutely opposed to Convention of States. I started studying and saying, what the hell am I doing? I'm on the wrong side of this thing. And, of course, I supported it. My approach with On Power is to emphasize, to focus more on the issue of power, not to the exclusion of liberty and rights or humanity, but to explain them. And I think one of the chapters you're going to find extraordinarily interesting, but in my opinion, is the chapter on liberty. I've written chapters on liberty before, but you know what I did on this chapter? I went to some of the greatest minds who discuss liberty. Aristotle. No greater mind than that. I can't name them all, but some you've never heard of before. Isaiah Berlin, brilliant man, fascinated by him. Others, John Stuart Mill wrote a whole book called On Liberty. I tap into the founders and the framers who spent a lot of time talking about it, writing about it. You know what I found out? And you're going to find out when you read the chapter. Not one of them clearly defines liberty. Pretty fascinating, don't you think? I don't think anybody else has come to that conclusion. And I explain it. It's not a criticism. It's not a criticism. Liberty is one of those words that's very difficult to define, and mostly defined by what it's not. By what it's not, or in the context of something else. That's my conclusion. We kind of know what liberty is, don't we? We certainly know when it's under attack or when we don't have it. I think you'll find this quite amazing, this chapter. Very, very interesting. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag that was made in America. And listen to this. That's why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag ever, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk today. Know that you're supporting a company that will be providing these high-quality flags made in America to deserving veterans, with plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data. You can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill, in many cases, in half. The average Pure Talk family saves over $1,000 a year. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a wireless company that supports our veterans, that is patriotic, based right here in America. Switch to Pure Talk. When you delve into the things that we've been talking about tonight, and then you come to clips with Hakeem Jeffries, I mean, it's a real 50 steps down, isn't it, Mr. Producer? I mean, these guys screaming at the top of their lungs sound like a bunch of morons, because they are. Jamie Raskin. I'll give you an example. Here's Jamie Raskin. Jamie Raskin has been pretending to be a constitutional expert for much of his adult life. He was a so-called professor. He's a disgrace. And he won't come on this program because he knows I'll expose him. That's why none of these people will come on the program. Not one of them. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Tlaib, none of them. Not one of them. But here he is yesterday on MSNBC. Cut 9, go.
If the president is lecturing the Republicans that they should never touch Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security, he clearly does not know what's in his own bill. And I didn't lob that at him as an accusation, but simply as a statement, because he would...
Okay, dummy. He doesn't touch Medicare and he doesn't touch Social Security except to give tax relief to Social Security recipients. As for Medicaid, yes, he touches it. He doesn't touch it for people who lawfully have a right to it, does he? Illegal aliens don't have a lawful right to be here, let alone to be using Medicaid and draining it out of its resources. Moreover, able-bodied young men in their 30s and 20s, as well as young women who are mentally and physically able to work 20 hours a week and refuse, are not the people that Medicaid, an insurance program for the poor and the needy, were intended to help. And they are draining resources out of Medicaid also. So what the Republicans and Donald Trump are doing, they're saving Medicaid by throwing off the reprobates, the people on the dole, the illegal aliens, and so forth. I don't know how much more clearly to spell it out. But the clown's on MSNBC, so he will never be challenged. He's there because he's a propagandist, because he's a Stalinist. You understand? Take another shot at this. Representative Robert Garcia, Democrat, California, Mr. Producer. Let's take a listen to him. Go.
Is there anything in here that you see as potentially good, even as you warn of all of the bad pieces?
No, because at the end of the day, even the things where there could be some agreement, for example, on taxing of tips, which is there's been some bipartisan support. It's not set up to be permanent. It goes away. It's complex for people to be able to report it. So
okay, let me explain democracy, how that works. We have elections every 2 years, 1/3 of the Senate, all of the House. Nothing can be permanent because each Congress has the power to undo what a prior Congress did. Moron. Now, if he's talking about the fact that they're in there temporarily, they're not in there forever, why does that matter since every Congress can do whatever it wants? And I suspect the reason they did that is in order to get it closer to a number that they wanted. But that's not really an important matter, is it, America? No. He calls this the largest transfer of wealth from the middle class to the ultra-rich. So there he is with his Marxist pablum, absolute pablum, but that's not the case. It's not the case. 50% of the people in this country don't pay taxes, income taxes. They'll pay Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, but they don't pay income taxes. So what is he talking about? That's number one. Number two, there's not a damn thing in that bill that transfers money from the middle class to the rich. Where? What? Where are the specifics? Why don't they ever demand specifics? We'll be back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Any folks in their cars tonight, traveling to whatever the destination is? I hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying the program. You know where I like to go? My wife and I like to go for at the end of the summer. I think 3, 4, 5 nights. Ocean City, New Jersey. Ventnor, Margate, New Jersey. Now, when we were kids, our parents had a condominium, nothing elaborate in the least, in Atlantic City. It was literally on the border with Ventnor. And fantastic memories. I mean, every day we'd run out to the beach, go in the ocean, and the shore, the beach in New Jersey is fantastic. The sand is very soft, and it's a big beach. And we'd spend half the day there, if not more. There was a pool that we used, but not as often. A fantastic boardwalk. This was in the heyday. Well, Atlantic City's gone through many heydays, but this is about, several decades back. The casinos were voted in, I think, in the 70s, and they were pouring a ton of money in, and the boardwalk was all built up, and you had all the big casinos from Las Vegas there and others as well, and I'd sneak in there and play some blackjack, Mr. Producer. Usually did pretty well. I'm not that excited about it anymore, but I used to like it. And then there was a $1 Million Pier and Steel Pier, and we'd go on those piers, and the rides were fantastic. Well, those days, many of those days, they're gone. It's too bad. We have a great radio station there in Atlantic City, too. I'm very proud of them. They do a great job. We appreciate it. I'm very proud to be on that station because I spent a lot of time at Atlantic City. We all did. All the boys did. And, and other family members as well. But great memories. So when we can, I like to, in fact, when the kids were a lot younger, we'd drive on Route 40. For those of you on the East Coast, New Jersey area, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and so forth. We go 40 east. I love that drive. It's used to be all farmland and with a few little towns here and there. Of course, more and more is built up, but there's still a lot of farmland, and they have a rodeo over there, pretty big. And what I particularly liked is you could stop at these vegetable and fruit stands because the Jersey tomatoes are unbelievable. Same with the corn and same with the peaches, but the tomatoes are like unbelievable. People just eat them. And we'd always take a bunch of those home, too. So there's very good memories. So I'm just sitting here thinking during the break, if I were free this weekend, that's where we would be heading, probably over there, just because it's a lot of fun. Yep, they have a lot of nice diners. I like diners. Going to diners. I can be driving in the middle of nowhere. If there's a diner, I'll pull in, I'll sit at there, and people look at me like, doesn't he look familiar? I always get are you who I think you are? How would you answer that, Mr. Producer? Yes, I'm Sean Hannity. You'd say you're Sean Hannity? Yeah. I said, I think I am. Anyway, that's, just want to mention that because, well, I just got something from the Social Security Administration. Weirdest thing. Hold on. I'm not on Social Security, just so you know. You know what else is weird while I'm talking to you folks? We're a family here. People are not calling me old man, Mr. Producer. Old man. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not that old. I mean, I know I'm not 32 years old or 28 years old or something like that. Old man, I'm going, wow, that's amazing. It's amazing. Now, those are usually people that hate me. I want to read something to you, particularly you seniors on Social Security. This is put out by the Social Security Administration. The Social Security Administration is celebrating the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, a landmark piece of legislation that delivers long-awaited tax relief to millions of older Americans. Here's what it does. Ready? The bill ensures that nearly 90% of Social Security beneficiaries will no longer pay federal income taxes on their benefits. Must be for billionaires, providing meaningful and immediate relief to seniors who've spent a lifetime contributing to our nation's economy. Quote, this is a historic step forward for America's seniors, said Social Security Commissioner Frank whatever. For nearly 90 years, Social Security has been a cornerstone of economic security for older Americans, he says, and by significantly reducing the tax burdens on benefits, this legislation reaffirms President Trump's promise to protect Social Security and helps ensure that seniors can better enjoy the retirement they've earned. The new law includes a provision that eliminates federal income taxes on Social Security benefits for most beneficiaries, providing relief to individuals and couples. And by the way, if you're a billionaire on Social Security, you don't get any relief. Additionally, it provides an enhanced deduction for taxpayers age 65 and older, ensuring that retirees can keep more of what they've earned. Well, that doesn't sound like a tax cut for billionaires to me, Mr. Producer. Does it to you? Now, they said tens of thousands of people are going to be killed. They're going to die as a result of this bill. Tens of thousands of people. And you know what's going to happen in America? Come tomorrow, nobody's going to remember they made that bald-faced, disgusting lie. Millions of children will no longer have food. Now, you know that's not going to happen. That's a lie, too. Nobody will hold them to account. None of these truly stupid people who we call so-called journalists on these newsrooms, truly stupid people, except for a couple exceptions, not many, are going to ever follow up with the Chris Murphys of the world or the Hakeem Jeffries or the Jamie Raskins. It's a, 7 weeks ago you said this, didn't you? They won't do it. They won't do it, and they ought to do it. Hold these people to account. No. We only attack Trump, Republicans, and conservatives. That's it. That's it. Now, we're not gonna hold anybody to account that should be held to account, right? That's right. We're not going to do it. All right, let's see here. Why the one Republican who voted against advancing the reconciliation bill looks really dumb right now. Well, there's Massey, and he's is he a Republican? I know he's a Libertarian. By Matt Vespa over at the Town Hall. What's Matt have to say? Representative Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican, Pennsylvania. You know, there used to be old jokes about Fitzpatrick, Mr. Producer, but I won't do that here. Representative Brian Fitzpatrick. Now, he represents like the Bucks County area. I know these areas well. It's sort of a liberal Republican area. Marginal and lean Democrat, lean Republican. I think I heard it went for Biden or it went for Kamala Harris or whatever. But if it did, it wasn't by much. He's the party goober. Right now, he was part of a 5-0 bloc that was against advancing the reconciliation package that cuts taxes, kicks illegals off Medicaid, secures our border, and, by the way, gives Social Security recipients a big break. He's willing to set fire to all that, all of President Trump and the GOP's top domestic action items over Ukraine war funding. I'm not kidding, he says. Actually, it was more than that, Matt. He went along with the lie that Medicaid was being cut. That is, the people who Medicaid is intended to cover. He went along with that, too, as well as other things, according to the speaker. So it wasn't just Ukraine, but there were other things. But this guy, I mean, he really looks stupid now, doesn't he? And the Democrats are going to use Republican talking points against him in that particular district. They're going to say, well, you voted for tax increases across the board. You didn't vote to give tax relief to senior citizens, so people who get tips like waiters and waitresses. You didn't vote to give relief to people who are earning overtime or working very hard. All that stuff that Republicans are going to use against Democrats and will now be used against Fitzpatrick. Now, Victoria Spartz, Republican of Indiana. I don't mean to be offensive. She sounds like a lunatic to me. She's sort of in the Marjorie Trader Green category. Do you know what I mean, Mr. Producer? In that category. But I've always said, you know, I better not say what I've always said. That won't go down right. And so you have some of these people, and but at least Matt Gaetz wasn't there. You know, Gaetz made a personal vendetta going after Kevin McCarthy because Kevin McCarthy wouldn't shut down an ethics investigation, and Kevin McCarthy didn't have the power to shut down an ethics investigation. And now we know why, since that information's been released, which is why I call him No Pants Gaetz. What a disgusting sleazeball. Folks, look, politics aside, what a disgusting sleazeball. It's like Fat Boy, what's his name? Bannon. What a disgusting sleazeball, ripping off patriots who are donating money to a charity where he says they're going to build a wall. He just pleaded guilty to fraud in February, and people don't even know that. Oh, there's Bannon, and the media love it. They promote the hell out of these guys. All right, I'm not going to bring the show down. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Oh, I feel bad now. I want to apologize to Representative Spartz. Nobody's as dumb as the other one. I can't remember her name again. It doesn't matter. No. I said nobody is as dumb as the other one. Spartz is... so I'm apologizing to Spartz. Because I put her in the same category as Green. And really nobody else is in that category. All right, let's keep our chins up here. Let's keep it up. I've got two very interesting here. National Review Online, FBI shutdown probe into alleged Chinese 2020 election interference to protect Ray, documents show. And then a CIA one. Now, this is big stuff. James Lynch at NRO. The FBI shut down an investigation into an alleged Chinese Communist Party plot to interfere with the 2020 election because the scheme would have contradicted then FBI Director Christopher Wray's congressional testimony, newly released documents show. Chuck Grassley released internal FBI documents showing how the FBI suppressed intelligence about a suspected Communist Chinese Party attempt to create fake driver's licenses and manufacture mail-in votes for Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election. You hear this, folks? This is real. This isn't fake. The FBI suppressed an intelligence report from the Albany, New York field office produced in the summer 2020 based on information from a confidential human source alleging the Chinese government was producing tens of thousands. Oh, what's with these ads, for God's sakes? Got it. Tens of thousands of driver's licenses for the scheme, but the document was buried. Its allegations were never investigated because Wray's September 2020 congressional testimony claiming there was no historical evidence of nationwide mail-in voter fraud campaigns. How do you like that, America? So at least here's evidence. Yeah, we'll go to Donald Trump live right now. Go ahead.
18 months ago, the people of Iowa braved sub-zero temperatures. You remember that night? Oh, that was cold. It was cold, but we were warm inside because we won by a landslide to turn out the first in the nation caucuses, and you delivered 98 out of 99 counties. What the hell county didn't? What's the name of that county? Let's get them out of here. 98 out of 99, that's not bad, Susie, I guess, right? We'll take that. But for President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, thank you very much, everybody. Then in November, we won Iowa by a landslide, 13 points, and it was the single largest presidential victory in your state's history. That's not bad. And now we're back where it all started to celebrate 5 months of incredible success for our nation and wish the Iowans and all Americans a very happy 4th of July. It's an honor to be with you. You know, a lot of people wanted us. When you're president, they want you. And if you're not president, they don't want you so much. But they really wanted us. And I said, nope, I'm going to Iowa because I promised I would go to Iowa. Sorry. I said, no way. There could be no better birthday present for America than the phenomenal victory we achieved just hours ago when Congress passed the one big, beautiful bill to make America great again. Right? And in the last election, the people gave us a historic mandate to cut taxes, raise take-home pay, bring back jobs, stop the invasion, that horrible invasion. Who would do that? Who would do that? That horrible. Who would do that to us? Who would do that to us? Deport the illegals and slash hundreds of billions of dollars of waste and fraud, and that's what we're doing. With this bill, every major promise I made to the people of Iowa in 2024 became a promise kept. You know, they had a report today on some crazy fake station, but it wasn't fake in this regard. They said, you know, this guy actually did more than he promised. I did. And I have another hat back there. It says, Donald Trump was right about everything. And I said, no, that sounds a little too conceited, but it happens to be true, I must say. This bill includes the largest tax cut in American history, the largest spending cut in American history, the largest border security investment in American history, although I must tell you, if you saw last month, they had 0 people coming through our border, 0. I'm not sure that's even possible. You know, I'll take it, but somebody must have got it. The other character had hundreds of thousands of people every time. Sometimes in a day, they'd have over 100,000. We had 0, I don't know, for the month. So it must be a little wrong. Maybe they're 2 or 3 or something, but I'll take the 0. And the group that makes up those stats, you know, they're radical left Democrats, so it's probably true. We did a great job on the border. The largest welfare reforms and military upgrades in modern times. That's what we're doing. We rebuilt our military in 2016 in their first term. We rebuilt it. They gave some of it away to Afghanistan on the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. You remember that? We remember that? We don't have days like that. We have days like we just had in Iran. That's the kind of days we have. Complete obliteration. It turned out that was complete obliteration. Think of these guys flying way up in the air on a dark night, no moon, no nothing. And they hit every single target. It's the size
Unfortunately, we have to take a short break. When we come back, if the president's still speaking, we will go to the president, because this is fascinating to me. We'll be right back.
Nobody says it better than Mark Levin.
I'll go with what Mark Levin said, because nobody could say it better.
Call in now at 877-381-3811.
We'll go back to President Trump in a moment. Just a quick reminder, the Reagan Library, Simi Valley, Sunday, August 17, 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. I hope you can join us. I don't even know if there's any seats left, but give it a shot. Just go to ReaganFoundation.org/Levin, ReaganFoundation.org/LEVIN. We're almost sold out. We'd love to have you there. The holiday weekend is coming. I won't be on the air till Monday, so don't forget, act quickly or it won't be there. And also, I'm hoping you'll go over to Amazon.com, grab your copy of On Power. We've spent a lot of time on it this show. Not enough to go through all the book, just little pieces of it. I hope you're intrigued by it. It's On Power. It's very, very good value for the price. I mean, it's a very low-priced book, On Power. And we'll be getting back to the president in a moment. Let's go back to the president.
Equipment, and we should have had. It was all set up to go. And then Biden canceled the order when he came in. But he canceled a lot of orders because he didn't know what the hell he was doing. There's a case would have never happened. Bells would have gone off. Whistles would have gone off. Everything would have gone off. It would have never happened. Very simply, the one big, beautiful bill would deliver the strongest border on earth, the strongest economy on earth, the strongest military on earth, and ensure the United States of America will remain the strongest country anywhere on this beautiful planet of ours. 165 days into the Trump administration, America is on a winning streak like, frankly, nobody's ever seen before in the history of the presidency. I said, they said, you know, sir, you're going to go down as one of the greatest presidents ever. I said, really? No, I said, really? I said, better than Washington? They said, yes, sir. I said, better than Honest Abe Lincoln? They said, yes, sir. I said, I like this guy that said that. That's a smart guy. He's up for a big promotion right now. But just a few months ago, our country was cold as ice. We were laughed at all over the world. We were laughed at. Think of it, a year ago, we were laughed at. We were a bunch of clowns. They were laughing at our president. They were laughing at everything having to do with our country. I was in Saudi Arabia. I was in Qatar. I was in UAE. Great leaders, strong, powerful, very rich leaders, too, by the way, but great leaders, very smart people. And they said to me, the king of Saudi Arabia, but the three said the same thing, essentially. They said, you know, a year ago, we thought your country was finished. We thought it was dead. Dead. Horrible word, dead. And they were right. The country was close to death. And he said, and you know what? You've been in there. At that time, it was 4.5 months. It was a couple of months ago. He said, right now, you're in the hottest country anywhere in the world. There's no country in the world. You talked about all over the world. You got the hottest, smartest, sharpest country. And by the way, look at our stock market. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars on tariffs with no inflation. And today we just set another record, the highest stock market in history. No inflation. And one of the great economists from the Wharton School of Finance, where I happened to go, he apologized. He says, you know, I think Trump outsmarted us all. And yesterday was the poll, and out of 77 economists, I came in second. I want to find the guy that came in first. Somebody came in first. Can you believe it? But we said what was going to happen, and it's happening. And I'll tell you what, we had the greatest economy, in the history of my first term. This is going to blow it away. You watch. This is going to blow it away. For the first time in years, this 4th of July, the economy is roaring, incomes are soaring, wages are up, prices are down. Gasoline, you see what's going on with gasoline? It's way down. See what's going on with eggs? Eggs are way down, eggs. Remember I came in my first week, the fake news, those guys right there, look at all of them. Wow, that's a... Wow. No, a lot of fake. No, but we like them. It just shows you, when you can get every story, 100% of the stories, no matter what you do that's good, they make it as bad as possible, and then you win in a landslide. There's something wrong. But the fake news hit me with eggs. Remember, first week, 4 days, eggs are through the roof. I said, I just got here. What's going on with eggs? Tell me. I didn't hear about it. They're up 5 times higher than they should be. They were going through the roof, but they were blaming me. I said, I just got here. And within 2 months, our great Secretary of Agriculture, who I think is with us tonight, Brooke, where's Brooke? Oh, look at you. Look, she is here. She flew all the way she comes from Texas, but I think she likes Iowa maybe even better. Look at her. You did a good job with groceries and with eggs. We'll tell you, it's true. They said, we have them this time, finally. It took an egg to get me, but that didn't happen either. Now they're down to a normal price, and people are ordering like crazy, but inflation is dead. 401ks and retirement accounts just hit an all-time record high. Did I hear what I think I heard? But we've achieved the lowest level of illegal border crossings in U.S. history, 0 illegal. Think of it.
Yes, it's the Mark Levin Show, and we're enjoying the president. Go ahead.
Again, I love it because I have never seen any country suffer. No country has ever. There's never. Don't worry, it's only fireworks, I hope. Famous last words. My famous last words. Trump said, don't worry, it's only fireworks. Jeez. You always have to think positive. I didn't like that sound either. You know? But last month, American-born workers gained 830,000 new jobs, a record. That's American-born. While the illegal aliens lost 340,000. And we don't want bad for them, but look, we have a country to run, and we want to have them come in, and we want to have them help our farmers. You know, you probably saw I got myself into a little trouble because I said, I don't want to take people away from the farmers. And we're going to do something I think that's going to be good because we want all the criminals out. Everybody agrees that we're finding the criminals, the murderers, the drug dealers. We're getting them the hell out of here. But the farmers, some of the farmers, many of you sitting right here, I have 4 friends right in the 5th row. But some of the farmers, you know, they've had people working for them for years. And we're going to do something. We're working with Christie. And we're going to do something that we're going to sort of put the farmers in charge. And if a farmer's been with one of these people that work so hard, they bend over all day. We don't have too many people can do that, but they work very hard and they know them very well. And some of the farmers are literally, you know, they cry when they see this happen. If a farmer is willing to vouch for these people in some way, Christy, I think we're going to have to just say that's going to be good, right? You know, we're going to be good with it because we don't want to do it where we take all of the workers off the farms. We want the farms to do great like they're doing right now. So Kristi Noem has done a fantastic job, and Tom Homan. And we're working on legislation right now. Susie, right? We're working on legislation right now where farmers, look, they know better. They work with them for years. You had cases where, not here, but just even over the years, where people have worked for on a farm for 14, 15 years, and they get thrown out pretty viciously, and we can't do it. We got to work with the farmers and people that have hotels and leisure properties too. We're going to work with them, and we're going to work very strong and smart, and we're going to put you in charge. We're going to make you responsible, and I think that that's going to make a lot of people happy. Now, serious radical right people, who I also happen to like a lot, they may not be quite as happy, but they'll understand, won't they? Do you think so? Madam Secretary, look at you with a white hat on. Do you think they'll understand that? You're the one that brought this whole situation up. Brooke Rollins brought it up, and she said, so we have a little problem. The farmers are losing a lot of people. and we figured it out, and we have some great stuff being written, and let the farmers be responsible. And then if the farmers don't do a good job, we'll throw them the hell out of the country. We'll let the illegals stay, and we'll throw the farmer the hell out, okay? Get ready, farmer.
He's in a damn good mood.
But so the fake news will write that. Donald Trump will throw farmers out of our country. They will write it. Because whenever I'm sarcastic, when you can't be sarcastic as a politician. Well, if you're me, you can't be if you're so I want to say I was only kidding. No, the fake news will write it. Donald Trump wants all farmers thrown the hell out of our country. The audience booed the hell out of him. There was no boo. No, they're fake news. That's why nobody watches them anymore. Violent crime is plummeting, and we're on track to reach the lowest murder rate ever recorded by the year.
I have to admit, folks, I don't want to go away yet, but I'm going to have to.
Way good.
Should we take a break now, Mr. Producer?
And that's knowing that we have a lot of people in
go
the
another
country
minute?
that we
Okay.
didn't have in the country 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, we have a lot of people that they allowed into the country that are serious criminals. A lot of them are on their way out, however. Iran's nuclear enrichment has been obliterated. Remember when CNN said, it wasn't obliterated. It was maybe damaged or damaged badly, but obliterated is too strong a word. No, it was obliterated. That's now been proven. The Atomic Energy Commissions, everything that's been obliterated. And they were trying to demean me by saying that, but they were really demeaning those great pilots and people and mechanics that got those planes over there and were able to shoot from high up in the air going very, very fast, with potentially a lot of things being shot at them, and hit every single one, they're trying to demean me, but to me, they were demeaning them. And they got out of the plane and they said, what the hell? We hit every single target. They know better than anybody, but now that's been proven. It's CNN fake news and scammers that work for them, scam writers that work for them. But we understand it, and we fight it back, and a lot of people say, sir, don't criticize it because they're beneath you. No, they're not beneath me. Nobody's beneath. You got to put it. Otherwise, people don't understand. If you don't say something about it, you got to say it. These people did one of the greatest military hits and maneuvers in the history of our country, and I want them to be appreciated for it. So they're coming to the White House tomorrow night, and I'm signing the bill with the Speaker of the House. And by the way, Mike Johnson did a great job. John Thune did a great job. Everybody. This whole 2 weeks has been incredible, hasn't it? When you think of all of the victories, we stopped 5 nations from going to war, and somebody else will get the Nobel Peace Prize for their writing about Donald Trump. A professor at some school that you've never heard of has received the Nobel Prize for his writing about Donald Trump and what Donald Trump did. I'll say, what about me? I don't get it, but that's one of those things. But think of it, we stopped India and Pakistan. We stopped Kosovo and Serbia. They've been fighting for a long time. And a lot of it was trade. I said, you're not going to trade with us if you're going to go to war. And India, Pakistan was big, very big for a different reason. I mean, they have little things called nuclear weapons. You would have had pretty soon a nuclear war. We stopped that. In Africa, you look at what was going on in the Congo with Rwanda. That war was going on for 30 years. 30 years, and we stopped it, and it was vicious. 6 million people killed, and it was a bad one. It was killed and killed badly. Machetes. A machete. You know what a machete is? You don't want to know. And we just did a really great job. And then, of course, you cap it off with the perfect hit in Iran, where they were talking awfully badly. Death to America, death to Israel. They were talking awfully badly, and they're not talking badly anymore, to be honest with you. And we might even meet with them and see if they want to meet. They want to meet, and we'll see if we can do something. But they want to meet. I think they want to meet very badly. But our allies have agreed to pay over $1 trillion a year for our defense. You saw what happened in NATO.
All right, we're going to take a little break now. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
All right, we're winding up our week because I won't be here tomorrow. I hear it's July 4th, and we love our July 4th Independence Day around here. We spend a lot of time on radio and TV talking about these things. And I want our veterans and our active duty military, all of our volunteers, to know how much we regard them and respect them here. We don't even need July 4th or any other day to remind us. We do it every day because we believe in it. I want to thank you all in the audience, too, for being so loyal and so wonderful and so interested in so much. Some people just hang it up. You're not that. And it is a great honor, and I want to thank you for your loyalty. I'm very blessed to have you in this audience. I know it, and I appreciate it. Classy people, smart people, respectful people, people who love their country, people who work hard or in retirement or trying to enjoy themselves after working all their lives. That's you. And it is a great honor. You know right from wrong. You know good from evil. You're just fantastic people. Reagan Library, last shot, folks. I hope you'll check them out. Good Lord, the show's already over. Check out the book on Amazon.com. We appreciate you very, very much. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a fantastic time. Think positive things. The country's in the right direction with our Commander-in-Chief. I'll see you on Monday. God bless.